Okay, today I want to talk about spirit guides in general and as they relate to mediumship. I differ from most people on this subject, most Americans, certainly most Westerners, because I grew up in a kind of commune that mixed Hopi Native American beliefs and philosophies with Eastern Indian um, philosophies and stories. So I know way more about Hopi mythology and the Ant people in the Americas and stories about Arjuna and Krishna and reincarnation in India. So way more than I know about Christianity, even simple stuff like parts of a church. Like I know what pews and pulpits are, but not much more than that. I grew up in a Latino Catholic family, but my household was not Catholic. So we were odd compared to the rest of them. But because I grew up in mostly in California and Arizona, I was inundated with Christianity and TVs and movies and families and friends and neighbors. So because of the way I was raised, but also because I've examined this on my own, I've always believed that I'm part of, and I think this is true for everyone, I'm just going to talk in the first person. I believe I'm part of a group of people. And some of us are here now, some of us are in spirit, and we keep trading back and forth. And it's when, like right now I'm here, when I pass and go there, some of them will be here, and I think there's overlap. And we trade back and forth, helping each other, watching over each other. So these would not be, and I've certainly had those experiences in my life where people have definitely intervened or been helpful in some way. So I'm not talking about higher beings or evolved beings. I'm talking about this peer group. And I think we all have that kind of peer group. But if I had been raised Christian, I might rationalize them as angels. I can see where that would happen. So I'm thinking of a Mexican relative of mine who, when he was dying, he kept talking about Jesus. He kept looking over to the side of his hospital bed and talking about Jesus this and Jesus that. And my Christian relatives thought that that was Jesus. And my mother and I thought that was his brother who had been named Jesus. So your own preconceived notions of things will affect your perceptions of any topic, but certainly spirituality and mediumship and that kind of thing. I do believe there are people who are done with this physical time-space reality, got everything they could out of this, but I'm not sure how often they focus here and interact with us. Because, how often do you focus or interact with Tinker Toys or Barbie dolls or whatever you interacted with as a child? I think I get the feeling that they've maybe outgrown us, even though such beings exist. I used to believe that this back and forth group that I'm a part of, where we overlap there or overlap here in the body, that was more about the family we choose rather than the family we're born into. Because I'm way closer to example for my spouse, who I chose, closer to my spouse, closer to some friends than to people, the family that I was born into. But I made a list when I first began deliberately engaging in mediumship, and even when I was learning, I made a list of people who could come through for me in a reading: parents, grandparents, cousins, so relatives, ex-teachers, acquaintances, coworkers, anyone I knew enough about who had passed, who could come through. There's 60-some people on that list. And many of them have come through. That I've talked about in other videos, the experience that I have of people looking at the world through my eyes. That's started to happen since I deliberately began. And I'd been doing mediumship for a couple of years before that happened to me. But that only happens with my parents and grandparents, and not people that I was closer to. So there is something about the family that you're born into, because of my parents and grandparents, those 6 people, I either didn't know very well, some of them, or some of them I did know well, I didn't get along with. We never got along. But it is one of those 6 or a combination of those 6 that do come in, looking at the world through my eyes when I'm driving, when I'm out shopping, when I'm looking at my brother. Sometimes either parent will do that. So I'm still exploring that. There has to be something about the family you're born into, because if anyone were going to look at the world through my eyes, I would think it would be people I was really close to, like I was with my mom, for example, and not others who I wasn't that close to. So something for me to explore. I'll do a video on it when I know more about that. So one of those 6 people does help me with my mediumship. I think it's my dad. Didn't know him very well, but I'm 90% certain that the man I've talked about who sort of directs traffic, that's my father. For lots of reasons I won't go into, but I'm pretty sure it's him. And then there's other, so again, had I grown up with different beliefs and different experiences, I might think of that person as a spirit guide. And he's a guide, he's in spirit. So that makes sense to me. But then other people, so it's happened in other ways where I had one grandmother I was very close to, the other grandmother I didn't get along with. And very recently I had major oral surgery. And as I was in recovery in my own bed, I had the surgery in the morning. In the evening when I was home in my bed, I woke up, I looked to the side of the bed, and when I do mediumship, I see people in the room with me. I see them in my mind's eye. Well, there was my grandmother, the way I see people in my mind's eye when I'm reading, except that there was no client, it was just the two of us, and this was the grandmother I didn't get along with. And I was surprised to see her. And in my head, clairaudiently, I heard her say, "You thought I didn't love you, but that's not the case. And I know you can do this." And she shows me myself doing mediumship. But she says, "Look what I can do." And she reaches down and I can see her doing this, and I feel like she's stirring around the inside of my mouth. So in my head, I said, "You're healing me." And she went, "Shh." So I shut up and I felt this weird thing in my mouth and I fell asleep. A couple hours later, I woke up. I came downstairs and there was a package, an Amazon package on my front door. And this grandmother would only eat almond roca at the end of her life. It was that particular candy. She wouldn't eat anything else. It was very frustrating to my mother, who was cooking anything she wanted to try to get her to eat. And so there's this Amazon package from a friend of mine who's a medium on the other side of the country. There's a note inside of it that says, "I know you can't eat this right now because of the surgery, but I know I'm supposed to send it to you and I don't know why." And I opened the packaging and it's a giant bag of almond roca. So that grandmother could not have made herself more explicitly known in the case of my surgery. I'm sure she wanted to be clear that it was her and that she was helping. But again, I can see where under different circumstances, I might perceive that as an angel or as some kind of spirit guide helping me. So I've also said in other videos, one of the hardest things for me to come to terms with when I began officially engaging in mediumship as a medium reading for people was that everyone who passes seems to get better. They all become a better version of themselves or the best version of themselves. And that was confusing to me and I didn't understand it, but it's happened to me over and over again where people have read for me and gotten difficult relatives who come through very loving and kind and friendly, like I never knew them, but the specific information about them is just too dead on accurate, dead on. And I've also connected with people in readings with a formerly unpleasant person who shows me how they were and how they are now and that they're better. So my take on spirit guides is that they are friends and family, but not necessarily from this lifetime. And so if there is someone, like the man who helps me sort of directs traffic when I feel more than one person in the room with me, I recognize as my father. But if that were someone from like another life experience, then maybe I would just call him a spirit guide. I don't know. But that's my take on them, that they are people that we have had interactions with before we became aware of them as a spirit guide, whether they were someone we knew here in life or someone we knew in a different life. I don't think you attract a random individual as a spirit guide. I think you've already had some previous relationship. So that's my opinion. And maybe there is some peer of mine who, like my parents or grandparents, who has moved on from this time-space reality, and maybe they're helping out. I suppose that's possible too. I'm just giving my opinion. I know I've talked about this with people and it rubs some people the wrong way, which is why I'm hedging a little bit. So that's that. Put your comments and questions below and I will do a video about those. Next week, I'm going to talk about dealing with no's. When you're in a reading and either you just keep getting no, 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 or you keep getting a bunch of yeses and then you clearly hit a no, and how to handle that. Because for most of us, especially when you're first learning this about yourself and how to do mediumship, no's can really throw you, and they don't need to. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Tune in then. And until next time, thanks for watching.